Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to do a talk today called Beauty Will Save the World. And before we start, let's have a few moments of quiet. Prepare our minds. Just breathe out any tension. Just relax, be at peace within yourselves. Breathe out any tension. Just relax all the bodies, the mind. Tune the breath and the mind to total peace. Now this, my friends, will be a shared screen one, so let's get into that. Now, when I browse through music videos on YouTube and other places, I'm struck by the comments made by people regarding music of any kind. It has an element of beauty. This may be classical, ambient, folk, vocal, folk, or even some pop songs. I became aware a long time ago that there are beautiful souls in all these categories, contributing to the store of beauty in this world, and thereby helping to permeate the consciousness of humanity with something that gives glimpses of what lies beyond the veil of illusion. I also awoke to the fact that people crave this tenderness and love that comes through in the music and the words. Comments are full of gratitude to the artists for providing a sanctuary of peace and harmony in the midst of the world's turmoil. It is what the majority of people really want. They need to feel safe and be immersed in things that are healing and uplifting to help to alleviate the fear and uncertainty that society forces upon us. Now, the pre-Raphaelite painter Edward Burne-Jones had some beautiful things to say about beauty. He said, "Only this is true, that beauty is very beautiful and softens and inspires and rouses and lifts up and never fails. Only this is true, that beauty is very beautiful and softens and inspires and rouses and lifts up and never fails." Here is one of his paintings, The Sleeping Beauty. The Sleeping Beauty was an interesting story because the Sleeping Beauty could represent the soul. The prince represents the mind that fights its way to the princess through many trials and tribulations. The kiss awakens her, which symbolizes the holy kiss, when the mind becomes illumined by the soul and the two become one. In Eastern teaching, it's known as Manasa Tajasa, which means the illumined mind. There are many people who put materialistic interpretations upon the Sleeping Beauty, or even try to, materialize the ideas. They're failing to understand the true symbology. We begin to recognize what reflects the harmony of the universe and leads us out of our mind-forged manacles, as William Blake put it, towards the freedom and bliss that we find when we become aware of our true spiritual nature. Music, poetry, art, literature, and nature can do this if we approach them in the right way. Of course, these are only stepping stones, and true freedom lies in the realm of silence, but they are a necessary stage on the journey for so many of us. What was it that inspired the poets to put together such wonderful and beautiful words? Lu Ji, who was a Chinese poet lived from 261 to 303 AD, wrote about the power of poetry in his Art of Writing. And I've got the book, The Art of Writing. It's to do with the Chinese masters. Lu Ji and others have given their ideas and insights into poetry and literature. So Lu Ji states, a writer makes new life in the void, knocks on silence to make a sound, binds space and time on a sheet of silk, and pours out a river from an inch-sized heart. That's a wonderful, so deep you could meditate on that for a long, long time. Knocks on silence to make a sound. So you have to somehow try and translate what you find in the silence into sound, which in a way, of course, is impossible, but you can do something that represents it, and perhaps it can lead the reader towards an understanding or towards the silence itself. It's very beautiful words. So Pope John Paul II wrote in his letters to artists under the heading, The Saving Power of Beauty, people of today and tomorrow need this enthusiasm of wonder if they are to meet and master the crucial challenges which stand before us. Thanks to this enthusiasm, humanity, every time it loses its way, will be able to lift itself up and set out again on the right path. In this sense, it has been said with profound insight that beauty will save the world. Now, the saying that beauty will save the world was attributed, arguably, to Fyodor Dostoevsky. And Dan Dennett, commenting on this, writes, this is, by the way, Dostoevsky, beauty's redemptive qualities are twofold. It breaks into the soul through great works of art, and similarly animates and uplifts great civilizations through a robust vitalism. These two initiatives are the qualities that Dostoevsky speaks of in reference to the world's salvation. Beauty, as expressed in great works of art, seeks to raise people out of that inward-looking state and get them looking outward towards higher forms, great plans, philosophic ideas, and upward towards the heaven and God, or divinity. Thus, great works of art purge the soul of ugliness and anger, allowing it to be utterly captivated by the surrounding beauty. So this is similar to what Lu Jin was saying. This is a painting by a Danish artist, whose name slips my mind at the moment, but if anyone wants to know, I can put it in the comments. He did some beautiful work. I think his last name was Monksted. Pierre Monksted. He did some beautiful paintings of nature, natural beauty. So this is similar to what Lu Ji was saying. Nowadays, people underestimate the power of art, whether it be poetry, music, painting, or literature. These are vehicles for the manifestation of the beauty of the soul, if that is where the inspiration arises. Society would rather wallow in pessimism and promote negative thoughts and emotions. It dismisses beauty as something that has no relevance in the world that we have built on the opposite. Physical beauty takes on diverse interpretations. It is said that we must accept each other exactly as we are, and that even what is in conflict with the inspiration of the soul is to be regarded as beautiful. But if we accept each other as we are, we won't have the aspiration to progress further onwards and to become more beautiful, more at one with the spirit. Plotinus, the Neoplatonic philosopher, wrote, so we must justly say a soul becomes ugly by something foisted upon it, by sinking itself into the alien, by a fall, a descent into the body, into matter. The dishonor of the soul is in its ceasing to be clean and apart. Gold is degraded when it is mixed with earthly particles. If these be worked out, the gold is left and is beautiful, isolated from all that is foreign, gold with gold alone. and so the soul. Let it be but cleared of the desires that come by its too intimate converse with the body, emancipated from all the passions, purged of all that embodiment has thrust upon it, withdrawn, a solitary to itself again. In that moment, the ugliness that came only from the alien is stripped away. There is often a denial that ugliness exists, that even what is repulsive to the soul is acceptable, so that the mind becomes caught up, as Plotinus says, with materiality and those things that are inimical to an awakening to our true self. Plotinus goes on to say, therefore, we must ascend again towards the good, the desired of every soul. Anyone that has seen this knows what I intend when I say that it is beautiful. Even the desire of it is to be desired as a good. To attain it is for those that will take the upward path, who will set all their forces towards it, who will divest themselves of all that we have put on in our descent. So to those that approach the holy celebrations of the mysteries, there are appointed purifications and the laying aside of the garments worn before, and the entry into nakedness, until, passing on the upward way, all that is other than the good, each in the solitude of himself, shall behold that solitary, dwelling existence, the apart, the unmingled, the pure, that from which all things depend, for which all look and live and act and know, the source of life and of intellection and of being. And one that shall know this vision, with what passion of love shall he not be seized? With what pang of desire, what longing to be molten into one with this? What wondering delight! If he that has never seen this being must hunger for it, as for all his welfare, he that has known must love and reverence it as the very beauty. He'll be flooded with awe and gladness, stricken by a salutary terror. He loves with a veritable love, with sharp desire. All other loves than this he must despise, and disdain all that once seemed fair. So when one realizes the true beauty, all those things he imagined were beautiful disappear like mist before the morning sun. Plotinus's words are very lofty and may go over the heads of many of us, but we must bring it all down to our level and look at those things that stir in us that longing to return to our true home, which is in the realm of spirit. I've often said that the theosophical interpretation or definition of meditation is the inexpressible yearning of the inner man to go out towards the infinite. There are emotions and thoughts that are like stones thrown into a pond that is reflecting the full moon. The image is shattered into countless others, and the clarity is lost. Anger, lust, and jealousy blind us to our true nature. There are some who say that it is these emotions that make us human, and that we should not try to eliminate them. However, all of them can lead to violence, which is predominant in society at the moment, and indeed always has been, it seems, as far as memory goes, or historical records go anyway. They also obscure our spiritual vision. It is all dependent on what we regard as being human, what we feel satisfied with as being human. There are people who aren't satisfied with the ordinary interpretation of being human and need to become what the Taoists may call the true human, or the Buddhists call the real human being. Those living a materially oriented life, devoid of any kind of spirituality, will of course need these lower emotions to justify their existence in a world built on the antithesis of the true spirit. There are even those who believe that to help to control one's anger, they must indulge it by practicing boxing, other sports, or expressing it through screams and shouts. This will only result in the participant being more easily raised to anger. The Buddha stated that anger never overcomes anger. Only love can do that. In the same way, violence never overcomes violence. Only peace can do that. Friedrich Schiller, a writer from some time ago, wrote that it is through beauty that we shall arrive at freedom. Again, that's a very profound statement. It is through beauty that we will arrive at freedom. Because it is indeed the portal that we need to step into a better world. Physical beauty is a wonder, but mental beauty is much more, and spiritual beauty is beyond comprehension. But as Robert Scruton says, beauty is vanishing from this world because we live as it did not matter. Beauty is vanishing from this world because we live as it did not matter. And this statement hits the nail on the head. This society gets by without promoting true beauty. There are many things on all levels that are claimed to be beautiful, but in reality, only the light of the spirit makes something truly beautiful. Those who find what they regard as beautiful in material objects or qualities are looking at the world in a limited way and creating their own vision of beauty. I'm not saying that isn't valid for some, but it's not the true beauty. We should also be aware that even the dark forces may use beauty to mislead the aspirant. The Buddha was tempted by beautiful nymphs sent by the demon king Mara, and there are sensual beauties that lead the soul along the wrong path and onto moral destruction. We must learn to discriminate between that beauty that inspires and uplifts us, clears our mind, helps us to attune ourselves to the spirit, and the lower beauty that satiates our senses and blinds us to the true self. And all the great spiritual works were written in poetry, which expresses the beauty of the language in the best way possible. Bhagavad Gita, Gita Govinda, Buddhist sutras, Tao Te Ching, etc., were all written in poetry because they appeal to the part of us that responds to beauty. Some of the Christian and Islamic illuminated manuscripts were created with beauty in mind. And this is an Islamic one. This is a Christian one. You see how beautifully they were produced. There are other works that appeal just to the intellectual. In Theosophy, we refer to the head and the heart. In The Voice of the Silence, translated by H.P. Blavatsky, it was written in poetic form for those who were more heart-centered. In the preface, she writes, "In this translation, I've done my best to preserve the poetic beauty of language and imagery which characterize the original. How far this effort has been successful is for the reader to judge." If one reads works like The Voice of the Silence, which help to stimulate our intuitional faculties and they also make us recipients of the soul of the world, as Ralph Waldo Emerson put it, recipient of the soul of the world. Nor should we ever disdain beauty in physical form. As many of the great artists throughout the ages have attempted to express beauty through the physical form. The Indian artists who painted pictures of Krishna and Radha, and many others, Hindu deities. These are all made to look very beautiful. Also Buddhist images of the Buddha and the Arhats, and many other works of art, whether it be Indian or classical Greek, Egyptian, whatever. There's always this attempt to show the beauty through the physical form. H.P. Blavatsky writes, "Verily, that body, so desecrated by materialism and man himself, is the temple of the Holy Grail, the adytum of the grandest, nay, of all the mysteries of nature in our solar universe." Verily, that body, so desecrated by materialism and man himself, and we can see how that's happened in society, where people regard the body as just almost like a machine, devoid of any kind of spirituality. And that has caused so many terrible kind of theories and ideas in society, scientific, philosophical, and otherwise. But this body is the temple of the Holy Grail, the adytum of the grandest, nay, of all the mysteries of nature in our solar universe. So think on that. And if we read Plotinus's essay on beauty, from which I've quoted, we see clearly that the various levels of beauty, from the physical and then on to mental, moral, and spiritual, are just these steps on the path of beauty. No words or teachings even approximate the truth, which can only ever be found within and never communicated. The written word cannot communicate this truth, which must always be found within. What we read in spiritual literature can only give us pointers. Eventually, we will have to forget all that we have learned intellectually, or we will be held back by concepts and ideas. Bodhidharma, the great Buddhist Harat, said that eventually the intellect will poison the soul. However, we do need to proceed in stages, unless we are an exceptional soul or have made most of the journey in a previous life. But for most of us, we have to climb that ladder, whatever means is appropriate for the soul and for us. Some people are devotional, others more intellectual. But it must be clear that truth lies beyond anything we can comprehend and beyond any conception of truth. So return again to Plotinus. What is beyond the intellectual principle, we affirm to be the nature of good, radiating beauty before it. So that treating the intellectual cosmos as one, the first is the beautiful. If we make distinctions, the realm of ideas constitutes the beauty of the intellectual sphere, and the good, which lies beyond, is the fountain at once and principle of beauty, the primal good and the primal beauty of the one dwelling place, and thus always beauty's seat is there. So what is beyond the intellectual principle, we affirm to be the nature of good, radiating beauty before it. So that treating the intellectual cosmos as one, the first is the beautiful. If we make distinction there, the realm of ideas constitutes the beauty of the intellectual sphere, and the good which lies beyond is the fountain at once and principle of beauty, the primal good and the primal beauty of the one dwelling place, and thus always beauty's seat is there. Again, very deep. Perhaps should have written that one down, but again, if anyone wants it, they can comment. Over here we have the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, one of my favourite poets. And he wrote, "Obscenity, which is ever blasphemy against the divine beauty of life, is a monster for which the corruption of society forever brings forth new food, which it devours in secret." Again, very deep. Obscenity, which is ever blasphemy against the divine beauty of life, is a monster for which the corruption of society brings forth new food, which it devours in secret. So we go out into the fields and forests and along the shoreline, our hearts seeking to feel that beauty that will give us comfort amidst the confusions of life. those things that take us away from experiencing somewhere in the very depths of our being what we really are, when all the falsity disappears into the light of something wonderful that is always waiting for the right moment to break through the clouds and touch us with a radiance and wonder that we may call love. A tenderness that is the beauty we awaken to when we are free to take in the changing colours and moods of the day and night and revel in the magic that we somehow lose when we give credence to those thoughts and images that blind us to what nature is trying to tell us, to sing to us in our hearts. Sometimes you look into the burgeoning green of springtime and realise how much a part of nature we are, how it makes you feel a hope that all will be well, because there is always change, a coming and going like the seasons, reawakening. Birds fly skyward through our souls into the heaven our minds seek in silence. Yes, beauty will save the world if we only learn to love and to care for every living thing, understanding the longing that humanity feels to return to its home, to its sacred self. Somewhere in everyone's eyes there is a poignancy, a light that foretells of a golden age, lost only to the mind that is shackled by convention and by giving itself in slavery to thoughts that bind it to earth and its transitory dreams. We come together in love to say goodbye to enmity and war and to appreciate our fellow human beings as gods and goddesses in the making, children of the light and denizens of eternity, brothers and sisters on every level. The musician or poet or artist or writer experiences within themselves this intense beauty and needs to share it, to express it to others in the best way they can, but they can never capture it in its fullness. Each one of us knows that there are things in our hearts and souls that can never be put into words, images or sounds. But we can try our best to help to lead others to have their own awakening. So for now, let's live in the light of the beauty we see in others and the world around us and within, and ascend that mystic stairway that leads us to who knows where, perhaps to other beauties that our minds cannot comprehend and only the spirit knows. As H.P. Blavatsky tells us, from strength to strength, from the beauty and perfection of one plane to the greater beauty and perfection of another, with accessions of new glory, of fresh knowledge and power in each cycle. Such is the destiny of every ego, which thus becomes its own saviour in each world and incarnation. So thanks very much for listening to this talk. Hope you got something from it. And hope to see you again very, very soon. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings.